All right, so we have the slippery jacks home, and there's some mushroom lunk somewhere just panicking that I just sprayed those mushrooms with water. But as I've mentioned in my previous videos, I typically will rinse my mushrooms off. Now, these slippery jacks especially, because I want to get that, I'm going to wash some of the, top layer off. And that's that slimy coating I mentioned earlier. Now, you don't have to do that. If your preference is not to wash mushrooms, then that's fine. Don't do it. You can just, you can skip this part and go to the next. But you know what? These things are out in the woods. They're dirty. Dogs have peed on them. I don't know. But I just find it not to be that big of a deal, to give them a little bit of a rinse. Truthfully, if you rinse them and they turn into slime, they were too old anyway. That's my humble opinion, is that they were just too old anyway. Now, we didn't collect a lot of mushrooms today, but we collected enough for a meal. That's all that really matters, right? Okay, now, let's move these over here. Slice that little buddy in half. Now, these are small enough. Now, see that one? He's just a little bit too old. I don't even want him. What I want is the nice, young, firm ones. Slice that in half. Okay. And that's your slippery jack. Not a lot to them, especially these small ones. Now, for those of you accustomed to filleting fish, take your knife and just pull off, if you want to. You can just pull off that top layer. You do not have to do that, by the way. So there is it. There's the slippery jack after the top layer, the skin, has been pulled off of it. There's that little piece of skin. Now, I'm not going to do that on these smaller ones. They just don't need it. They're just firm. They just really don't need it. But on the larger ones, you kind of want to do that. I mean, you can do it. I'm going to do this smaller one right here. Okay. Yeah, you just, there's that. All you're trying to do, if you're going to do this, is you're removing the top layer. So you just get a little piece of mushroom. All right, so there's our end result. Again, that was a small forage, but for what I need tonight, oh look, we got a runner. Well, oh, there's actually more to be added. One slipped out of the pan. So I'm going to slice that in half. Now this is a larger one, so I'm going to go ahead and take that layer of skin off of him. Now sometimes, as I mentioned earlier in the video, sometimes these will peel right off. Now these are being a little difficult. They're not peeling as easily as I had hoped. But that's okay. Just very gently take a paring knife and you just take, again, all you want to do is you want to take the skin layer off. That's all you want. Now, on the younger ones, I want to reiterate, I don't think it matters that much. On the older ones, the larger ones, it does. It makes a little bit more difference. I think the flavor is better after you pull that skin off. But on these younger ones, you're just fine. So I am adding these slippery jack mushrooms to the pan dry. So there's no oil or anything added. And the reason I'm doing that is I use some water to wash them off. So when I add them to this hot pan, a lot of that moisture is going to evaporate. Now we're going to add some oil to it here in a moment, but again, I want to do it, I want to get some of that moisture off there. Now you can just let them sit on a counter, you can pat dry them with a paper towel, let them sit on a counter and air dry, you know, but again, we're doing things kind of quickly here this evening. So we want that to cook out. Interestingly enough, I think they have almost a maple syrupy kind of smell to them. It's when they're cooking. It's kind of interesting. All right, just getting things ready to go. We're going to add just a little bit of oil to the pan. A little coconut oil that'll match our coconut milk that we're going to add here shortly. Anytime you have wild mushrooms, you want to cook them well. So I'm going to let them sit over here. In here, I have katuk from my patio and also basil from the patio. So that's my greens that I'm going to add. Now again, we got a little coconut oil in there. Now that katuk, you can add protein to this if you want. The katuk itself is almost 50% protein by weight, so that's got a lot of protein in it. So I am going to add some protein to this. Not going to do it quite yet, but we are going to add some protein to that. So. Coconut milk. Reduce our heat just a little bit. Pepper. Lime. I'm going to use about a half of a lime. You can always add more later if you want. So start out with about a half and then test it as you go. Now, we're going to add some pasta to that. Now that's just spaghetti pasta. You can use angel hair. I mean, you can use any variety of pasta that you want. You can also pre-cook the pasta. It makes it just a little bit easier. I'm actually going to cook the pasta with the wild mushrooms. Now you notice I only sauteed those mushrooms for a few seconds. So we got lime, we've got black pepper. Now as you cook this, just add coconut milk as necessary for moisture for that pasta. I'm going to let this cook a minute. We'll be right back. Alright guys, so these have been cooking now about 4 minutes. I have added some coconut milk to this. Just to keep, what you want to do is keep your moisture up, because again, you're cooking that pasta in the coconut milk with lime and pepper. So you really want the pasta to absorb the flavors. Now we're going to add some protein. Now again, the katuk is about 50% protein. You don't necessarily have to do that, but why wouldn't you add scallops to this mix? That just seems like it was meant to be. So we're going to add these scallops in there. And then for that 4 or 5 minutes that it did cook, I did cover it. Now again, I'm trying to keep that moisture in because I'm trying to cook that pasta at the same time. Again, you can cook the pasta in a different pan and then just add it to it. That works as well. But what I'm trying to do is get the pasta to absorb the flavor of the lime and the pepper and the coconut milk. So I've got the cover on that. We've got some scallops in there. I'm going to let that cook for about 3 minutes. All right, so that's about 3 minutes. We've still got pretty good moisture inside there. Just stir it up real well. I think it's time for a little bit of a sample. What I'm looking for is my lime flavoring and pepper. Perfect. All right, we're going to cover that bag up. I'm going to let that go about 3 more minutes. Maybe ease the heat back just a hair. 3 more minutes. All right, so that is about another 3 minutes. So our scallops should be done. They don't take long. And there you have it. Wild forage slipperjack mushrooms. Katuk growing on the patio with basil growing on the patio. Pasta, lime, coconut milk, and of course scallops. Why not? Little seafood edition. Oh my God, so good. So I get comments about, how do I use wild edible plants, wild mushrooms. And so this dinner is only wild mushrooms. Now I do have katuk and I have basil that I harvested off of the patio garden. So a lot of this is either grown or harvested. But today we went out for maybe an hour, hour and a half at the tops. The only mushrooms we found were the slippery jack mushrooms. Again, not considered a great edible, but I think they're good. And again, when they're cooked into a dish like this, doesn't matter. They're a great addition. They don't have any strong flavor that's going to offset your dish. This pasta dish is absolutely wonderful. The half of a lime was perfect. So that gave it a little bit of tang, and it really complements the pepper. The coconut milk has been cooked down enough to where it makes like a thick sauce. The pasta's done perfectly, and it's scallops. So how do you go wrong with scallops? Now you could cook the spaghetti first, prior, and then add it to it. That would be fine. The scallops you could also butter cook with some garlic and cook them as well. But this whole dinner took about 14 or 15 minutes. And so it's very quick, very easy, and we're incorporating the mushrooms that we found today on the hike into this dish, that's what we want to do. So it's been a great day. Really glad you guys tuned in. Hopefully you tuned in for the walk, and obviously you tuned in for the dinner. The next time that I see you, hopefully Dozer and I are out in the woods doing something wild.